are you going to trust your largest asset to someone who negotiates once a year? Be honest with people.
Yeah.
Like, I do this for a living.
Yeah.
I don't do anything else.
Yeah.
I've heard top brokers in the city saying, you know what? If they're part-time real estate brokers, that has to be announced. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth, because I live this business.
Even as much as AI is a part of our process, people are still craving human interaction.
Of course they are.
Okay, here we are, Rate of Success podcast. I'm lucky enough to have my first repeat guest, Mr. Adam McRae.
Hello, hello.
Yes, so we have not done a repeat guest, so you're the first one.
Excellent.
Yes, and Adam and I have known each other way too long. We started riding motorcycles, going to nightclubs, and now we do realtor and lender conversations, which is very different. So it's only natural Adam was our first repeat guest. Full disclosure, we prepped nothing before this. We just talked about it before he got in here, somewhat by design, because, you know, we talk about this stuff all the time, and we didn't want to have, you know, a document out talking about, you know, what we're going to talk about. So we're just going to kind of talk about the market. So as we film this today, it is March 16th?
Yes.
16th. So it's been kind of a wild kind of few weeks. So 2 weeks ago, we had the lowest rates we've seen in 3.5, 4 years.
Yes.
Iran broke out, so now we have rates kind of pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting time, because I'm curious about this. So I've been talking to a lot of people. You know, last year it was right after the election, so it was kind of a polarizing time. And typically election years before that, a little bit slow. But last year seemed a little bit different because nobody kind of knew what was going to happen with the new president, new initiatives.
Yep.
We had a wild ride in rates. And now we get into this year and we have record low rates for years. So what has that been like the last, I would say, 60, 90 days? And have you noticed it different over the last several years?
Absolutely. So a couple of things I've seen, especially when the phone starts to ring, when you see rates have dropped below 6%.
Yeah.
And the phone started to ring.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen. The conversations started to get a little bit easier to talk about. Let's say you schedule 30, 40 phone calls a day, and you get a few more yeses or maybes or we'll think about it.
Yeah.
Now that rate is a little more palatable.
Yeah.
So I think that it definitely helped out the situation. People who were selling in the last 2 years were people who were downsizing, the diapers, downsizing, diplomas, divorce.
Yeah.
That's what I have seen over like the last 2 years. And now the questions are about, you know, now we know we have equity in their house. So I would do videos on a regular basis and talk about, if you're the only house that's on the block that's for sale, do you think you're going to yield top dollar for that house right now?
Yeah.
Or do you think you're going to, you know, you got other competition? And the answer came, and I always ask the question. I feel if I ask the question instead of making the statement, helps people realize and kind of digest that information on their own and answer the question. Says, maybe it's a time to sell. Because again, maximize your profit on your asset.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to talk about. It says, you know, I made a video probably 2 weeks ago and I was talking about how you take away the feelings, the memories. I understand that. A house, a home creates that. But if we look at our job is to maximize the asset returnability or the yield on their asset.
Yeah.
So I kind of, sometimes it's a tough conversation to have with people saying, well, you know, we've been here for 15 years. We like the school district, but let's try something else. Why not try something? And no one likes to try something new. Ask someone how it's like to change your insurance.
Yeah.
That's like, it's tough. But I think having the conversation and asking the right questions and really focusing on the client themselves and not just trying to jam a narrative down their throat, because that's not fair. You know, especially with listings now. I sell houses that are anywhere in Illinois, and it could be 7-figure price points. It could be 5-figure price points. I try to accommodate, you know, investors and people who are buying, but I've tried to offer different listing packages.
Yeah.
Do you want me to be at every showing? Do you want me to, you know, you want all the high-end photography and everything else? It will cost you this. Do you want to go with a lockbox on the door? We'll do a couple open houses. It'll cost you this. You want a lockbox on the door? Well, then it's going to cost you this. So if you offer those options to sellers, most of the time they're going to pick the middle one because it kind of really kind of.
What's the biggest objection that you're seeing from sellers right now on why they do not want to list? Is it more just not having a place to buy, or is there any So that's obvious. Is there any other ones that have maybe creeped in that you weren't seeing in previous markets?
I've seen that the common question, just like you said, is that what are we going to do after to find a home?
Yeah.
And I try to say I'm going to customize selling your house. And people ask me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That means if we want to sell your house and you want to buy another one, let's put the house in the private network. Let's just dip our toes in the water, see what kind of traction we get. And then we find that one buyer who's looking to do a lease back or make it accommodating for the seller itself so they can go find a home. The whole concern, I think, with sellers in that buying process is that they're thought of not finding a home in that certain school district. Yeah. But if you time it correctly, like right now, we're in March 16th. Yeah. So I think the spring market started in January, just saying. But I think if you are able to strategically do it to where we find the right buyer for your sale, gives you ample time and everyone's on clear communication, both the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, it could be a smooth transaction. And you take away any reservations the seller is going to have. Yeah. So I think that's a big thing. You know, there's still a shortage of inventory right now.
I mean, we're still 62% below where we were in 2019. So that's a massive amount.
Huge.
And when you break it up by county, it's even more startling, and it shows you how much less inventory there has. You know, what's interesting about rates is what I told buyers. I'm curious your take on this. Kind of the narrative that I've been sharing with a lot of buyers is, you know, if rates were 5.5% right now, you know, you're up against 3 offers right now.
Correct.
You'd be up against 15.
Yes.
Okay. So the market is presenting opportunities at certain moments. It could have been December of last year when, you know, you had a buyer put in an offer and they would get closing cost credits back.
Yep.
That went away in January when everyone came back to the market. And maybe right now when rates pulled back a little bit and everything going on in Iran, buyers take a step back because they're unsure about what's going to happen and fear. That presents another opportunity.
Correct.
Or I've even mentioned, you know, there's a lot of people on spring break.
Yeah.
You know, so they're away. If you're at home presenting offers, you may have less offers now than you will in April. Yeah. You know, because everyone's going to come back from spring break and they're going to be ready to go. There'd be maybe more inventory. So have you kind of seen those same kind of cycles and, you know, maybe these little opportunities that open up that go away very quickly? And if you don't capture them, you're kind of missing the mark? Yeah.
I closed a deal January 7th.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to buy. They weren't even interested in buying. But I showed them a house and they fell in love with it. Yeah. And they had no intention in buying. Sure enough, the seller agreed upon the contract. We sold his house for top dollar and it went through. But he received top dollar because there was nothing else on the market. Yeah. I mean, and it was the conversation I would have with my client was, who's buying a house in January? Well, the house he bought was sitting on the market for like 90 days. Yeah. So there's snow on the ground. People aren't out.
Now, if you listed that house today, it would be totally different, right?
Perfect example, I will say is I live in Lamont. Yeah. There's about 245 homes in the subdivision. In the last week and a half, there's been 2 houses pop up in the market. So I have another seller who's going to sell probably in May in the subdivision. I already had a conversation with them last year, which is good. But the one thing I said to them is that what if there's other houses on the market? And now guess what? There's now 3 houses on the market, or there's 2 houses on the market with 1 more coming up. Yeah. So you could yield top dollar if you were the one guy on the market, but guess what? Now you have competition. Yeah. So, you know, timing is everything. I think they wanted their kids to get done with school, whatever the case may be. But again, our job is to.
But again, that timing's the same timing for everybody, and that's what we talk about opportunity. Is sometimes I think what's opportunity in this market is to do things at times when other people aren't prepared to do them. Correct. And that takes a lot of strategy and conversations that most people don't have. So that's interesting. I did see, and I've seen this been thrown around a lot, but it is interesting that there are more people that have a rate over 6% than there are that have a rate below 3%.
Really?
Okay.
Wow.
So that's the first time in a really long time that those two things are the same. Now, there's a lot in between 3 and 6 that aren't in that stat, but there's more people over 6% than over 3% for the first time in a long time. So, you know, if you think about that, or more people over 6 than under 3. So if you think about that, one of the biggest arguments we've always had is, well, I have a rate that's below 3%. Why would I move? And you know, it's legitimate, obviously. But if you kind of remove that objection and you can get closer, and let's say you have a 4.5% rate and you can get a 5 rate, like that move starts to make more sense. And it starts to free up some of the inventory that we need. And I think that is something very interesting. But then you also have a lot of people that are over 6 that maybe bought in the last 3 or 4 years that could actually sell.
Yes.
Okay. And people say, well, why would they sell? They just bought a house. But there's a lot of people that don't live in a house for 10 years, 11 years. So I think the market is in a very, unique position. Are you starting to kind of see where maybe sellers are getting a little bit more willing to test the waters?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I tell you, I'm at the ice rink with my kids on a regular basis and just striking up conversations with parents.
Yeah.
Sold this guy a house about 1.5 years ago. Calls me up. Says, you know what? It's a lot of house for me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about selling.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he's had it for about 1.5 years. And ran the numbers. I looked at the comps. You're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
The interior of the home, the size of the home, everything the same. School district, all those variables go into effect. But what I'm seeing is that he's going to be able to sell his house after 1.5 years and make money. And
now imagine that same scenario if you put off waiting to buy for 1.5 years. Like, so rates lower, but now you're, his house is obviously more money, so you're spending more money. So the offset, but when that's the dynamic, it does not pay to wait to purchase a home. Yeah.
I mean, I remember I bought my house in Lamont, 2021. And I said to my, and this is a very interesting story. And I remember I said to my wife, I said, this is our budget.
Yeah. Well, wife and budget, those things, do they go together?
No. But I said to myself, I'm like, we paid what we paid. And I said, I wonder how much is going to go up in 3 to 4 years. Lamont's a great school district. I'm very happy to be in that town. And the increases in prices have just been amazing. And that was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I do videos on a regular basis. You bought a house 5 years ago, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to downsize, you're looking to upsize, maximize your profits and do something about it.
Well, and I think the other thing too is a lot of people say, well, you're sitting on a gold mine. Well, what if I missed those 5 years? And the thing that I always say is, there's no financial way based on data that home prices could go down when inventory is 62% below 2019. When we're, the only way that you purchase something today and the value of that would go down is we'd have to have way more inventory.
100%.
And the question that I always, ask them is like, where is that inventory going to come from? Is it going to come from foreclosures? Well, foreclosures are still at a multi-year low, nowhere near. They're higher than where they were years ago, but that was because we had a moratorium during COVID. So, but we're still significantly below where we were, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a ton of new construction? Where's that going to come from? Because where are you going to build new construction? A lot of the big builders have moved south to more profitable markets. So we just don't have a ton of new construction. We have some, but when you go to Florida, Texas, and the Carolinas, way more competition.
Yeah.
So where is that inventory going to come from? Like, it's just like, it's not there. So to me, it would be a lot bigger argument if we had more inventory.
Correct.
If someone said to you, Adam, should I buy now? Well, but we're so far below.
Correct.
And it's only getting worse. And if rates go down, it's going to get even more, worse from where we are today.
Yeah, more sellers on the market. What's going to happen if you've got more competition?
Yeah.
You're selling that house for now a buyer's nitpicking. They're like, wow, this house has a pool. The other house doesn't.
Yeah.
They can start arguing that we don't even want a pool.
Yeah.
And then we want to fill it in. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
That $150,000 pool you put in your house has now been wiped clean because you've got 3 other houses on the market.
Or some people don't want the insurance of.
True.
Yeah.
Upkeep, whatever the case may be, but you need to sell your house, and now this is a hindrance on you.
Yeah.
So, again, I think if we look at, I've had the conversation with sellers, and it's like, well, you know what? If you can make it and customize it, it's like having an open house. You're like, hey, I can sell your house. Let's get out of the house for a couple hours. Take the dog, take the kids.
Yeah.
Instead of doing showings on, you get a 24-hour notice. That's fine. But if we do like 3 open houses and we figure that if you can be out for 3 hours where you're not going to be inconvenienced getting the house ready, stuff like that, well, it makes it a lot easier for a seller to say, you know what, let's just test the waters a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what I've seen. That's why with the service I try to offer, it's very white glove. I want to make sure I'm there for the whole process. If it'd be during the showings, and I love being there for the showings because guess what? I can go back to the seller and say, hey, listen, you read the body language of a buyer. You ask a couple questions here and there just to find out the narrative, what they're sitting in. Well, guess what? I can go back to my sellers and say, you know, it felt good. The vibe was there. They were interested. They don't have anything to sell. So it kind of gives them information because there's some brokers out there who put a lockbox on the door and say, you know, we'll send out an automated email to give me what the response is. Well, personally, I think that's a waste of people's time.
Yeah.
Because, I like to be at every showing.
Yeah.
Because, again, I believe that's part of the service. In the city, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Listing agent shows up, buyer's agent shows up, and buyers. Out here, most of the time, you'll see a house in a lockbox.
Yeah.
So that's where I try to differ myself from other brokers. And they can do whatever they want. I do this, and hopefully my clients see and appreciate the distance I try to go for people.
So on that, I think, and maybe we can try to explain this to consumers a little bit because I think it's important. So, you know, you have your own brokerage,
yes,
okay, and that was a choice, and you know, so I want to touch on that a little bit. But the news has been dominated over the last 6 months with a lot of news regarding Zillow, Redfin, where listings are, where they are not, Compass, their strategy, and everything that they're doing, which, you know, a lot of it is about control.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of it is about where listings are, where they are not. The average consumer has no idea that a lot of this is happening. Now, if you talk to these companies and you see them on, you know, CNBC and you hear them talking, they have a very good talking points about why they're doing this. You're in control. You get to, you know, they're making it about the consumer, but it's not really about the consumer.
Correct.
They want to own the funnel. They want to own where people go, and they're thinking about it, in my, you know, humble opinion, they're thinking about it in a very old school way of, well, if we own where people go to look for homes, we own, you know, how they're viewed, when they're viewed, and where they're viewed, then the people will generally only come to us.
Correct.
Okay? But that's how things used to be.
Yep.
In a day of AI and all these other things, the one thing you can never predict is the consumer, where they will go and how will they react. You know, you can try to own it.
Yep.
But that, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, that's how Zillow was born. That's how, and, you know, so I'm curious, you know, you own your own brokerage, okay? How do you feel that that's an advantage, okay, to help your customers? Because obviously you're not playing in that game, okay? And then also, how do you feel like what you're doing helps the consumer more? Because you're taking the consumer away from that, you know, kind of machine that's basically using the consumer as a lead, and, you know, extracting, because, and this is just my last thing I hope you can touch on is, you know, all that creates revenue for the companies, but it doesn't really translate to consumer advocacy, or the consumer doesn't benefit from it. If anything, when they get in those things, they pay higher for a mortgage. They pay higher, you know, for listing in a lot of cases. I know they advertise it lower, but there's, you know, what if they sell the home for less? You know, all those things. So do you have any opinion on that over the last several months?
So here's my about the first topic about these companies keeping their listings internal. Okay.
Can you just explain what that means, though, to the average consumer? Like, because I don't think anybody understands, like, if you go here, you like when you go on to Zillow or Redfin, you may not see all the listings that are on the market.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I believe is that those listings, let's say whatever office those are, they will keep those listings internal into their own office, into their own database. So here's my objection with it, is that it's kind of like putting for sale by owner on your house. And I'm not discrediting what these companies do, but it's like casting a very narrow net or a short net in the pool of buyers. So if I'm able to cast a wider net with the MLS and putting all those properties onto for the general public to view, everybody, not excluding anybody, you know, you're advocating for the seller themselves. And I think that our job as real estate brokers and lender is to advocate for the public.
And don't you feel like, I just really want to hit home this, like, so if you put something on the MLS, okay, and it has a very wide reach, okay, and let's say you get 20 offers, which is realistic in this market. Sounds
Exactly.
crazy.
It is.
Versus you put it in a office, specific pool, and you get 5 offers. Who do you think is going to get the most money?
The MLS listing, because you're casting a wider net.
But who do you think makes the most money on the 5 offers? Not the client, it's the brokerage, because they're keeping both sides in their office. So that is what I don't think the consumer fully understands or appreciates. Now, they will sell it as, well, it's more convenient because you don't have to have a bunch of people going through your house and you don't have to do all this. But would you rather have an extra $30,000?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think that's the part that the industry has done a really bad job of kind of narrating.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in a lot of my videos, I've talked about this, is the thing that's gotten lost in all of this is the consumer.
You got it.
And that's the one thing that we lost the biggest trust with during the whole commission debacle was the trust of the consumer.
Correct.
And we didn't learn anything from that. We went directly to this, and now it's just we want to own it. We want to own it.
Of course.
And so do you agree with that?
1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And again, why to keep that listing internal, and that's probably a selling point to a seller. And like our office will be able to see our office of the top brokers. I'm one of the top brokers in the country, but there's 74 people on your team, and you know what I mean? Be honest with people.
Yeah.
Like, I do this for a living.
Yeah.
I don't do anything else.
Yeah.
So I've heard top brokers in the city saying, you know what? If they're part-time real estate brokers, that has to be announced.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hate to say it that way, but that's the truth. Because I live this business. I look at trying to do the best I possibly can. Is there someone else that can come in and probably do it cheaper? Yeah, someone can come in and probably do it cheaper.
Something that a lot of top realtors have told me, and they don't know each other, but they've repeated the same thing, which I love, is that your outcome in this market is not going to be the same for every person you work with. And that outcome could be a sales price, could be a purchase price, it could be just getting an offer accepted. That outcome that you have is dependent on the people that you work with.
Correct.
Not necessarily the company, not necessarily the commission structure, not necessarily, it's the individual and the team that they have around them and their experience to be able to handle the market.
Have I lost listings before?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I can focus on people who appreciate me and appreciate that I'm going to be straightforward and honest.
Yeah. Well, don't you feel like I always say, when you have a defined process and the way you work, you're going to attract the people that you want to work with versus, when we both got into the industry, we were just work with anybody.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm just going to, I don't have any standards. But when you start working with people, have you ever had to fire a client?
Oh, what?
Have you ever had to fire a client?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so but don't you remember that time when you fire a client, how, in a lot of ways, how liberating it is? I tell people all the time, like, loan officers when they get in the business, I don't feel like you've arrived in this business until you have to fire a client.
No, I agree.
Because like you mentioned something that made me think of this, that now you can spend time on people that appreciate, because what happens a lot of times is, and the reason why you have to fire a client is they suck time away and energy away from the people who really need it, and the buyers who, because you're spending so much time and energy on that one. And it takes a lot for me to have to fire someone, but I think it's important to be able to have standards that you live up to, because those are the people you're going to be able to help and that need your help and that appreciate it. I think that's really important.
I mean, listen, when you're answering like you do, one thing about you and your team, I've always been able to get a hold of someone on your team. 10 o'clock at night. And I'm not joking, because that's what it's been.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with me. When you're really working hard for somebody and it comes to the fact where like they're just not happy, well, then you know what? It does feel liberating just to kind of say, you know what? I've done everything I possibly could do to help them get to that point.
Yeah.
Did we receive the right offer you want? But that's what the market is telling us, is what the price we're receiving. I mean, I'm still offering the same services. I'm still there every time, but it's the market that's speaking to us that house is only worth this.
Yeah.
So I think understanding is that I'm a great negotiator. That's the one thing about me. I fight for my clients' dollars and cents.
But do you feel like being an independent broker gives you an edge?
Yes.
Is there ever a moment where, man, I would really love to have that, this from this office or this part? Like, I'm sure there's moments, which is okay. But like, Are there other times though where you're able to react more quickly? And before anybody from one of these companies complains, I actually talk to a lot of people from those companies and I ask them what they think. Like a lot of them agree with everything I'm talking about. So it's not like I'm talking out of school, but I just want to make sure. But like, do you feel like you have, more flexibility to, being independent?
I do.
It gives you, like a little bit of, can you sell against that?
So what I believe, I worked for larger offices when I first started in real estate in the city. I think it gives me a little bit more, because like I said, I've got clients who buy in the 7 figures.
Yeah.
I've got clients who buy in investment properties, wherever.
Yeah.
So I think that gives me a little bit more flexibility
Yeah.
and understanding, because I've heard from brokers like, well, I only work in this neighborhood and I only sell above 7 figures. And I'm like, really? I mean, is that the answer you're going to come with me at? I try to help as many people as I can buy real estate. So I think being that my name's on the company, I really do everything in this, anything possible to make sure my clients are happy. And you know what? It doesn't matter what office you work for. You could be a complete idiot and work for the biggest company in the world, but and you're arrogant, you're self-centered. Who's going to want to work with you because you've got a great, beautiful office?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, what comes out?
I think too, like the biggest thing that any realtor can do is brand themselves independently, even if you are with a bigger company, because at the end of the day, people hire you. Okay. The company is great. I mean, I love, that I work for Rate and that's great, but I want it to be Eric Hamilton.
I get it.
And I want Eric Hamilton to have a different branding opportunity than Rate does. Like Rate's great and it's the name behind it, but it's also the experience they have working with me. And I want that to feel different. So I think it's important people choose to work with people that they know, like, and trust.
And they trust. There's the word, trust.
Yeah. And it's like when you can build that independently, very powerful.
I agree. So,
and then the other thing is that I love is now you become the asset. You're not dependent on leads or information from this big company or a business model that continually changes that requires you to do. Like you being independent, you create the business model, you create the standard, you put the people around you that you want. You don't have that flexibility when you're a part of a larger brokerage. So there's probably some negatives, but there are also probably a lot of things that you really love about it.
I appreciate it, and I think the rule for car is that you have to be a broker for 2 years before you can be a managing broker, and I agree upon that. Yeah, we've been doing this both a long time, and we've seen the massive downs, we've seen the great times. So I think understanding how that, I've seen brokers, because again, a statistic came out last year is there was maybe 20% of brokers sold one house all last year. Yeah. I'm probably off by that a little bit. Yeah. But that's like sobering. Like that's a tough number to like hear. Yeah. And then this is what I do for a living. I'm selling houses. So it's like people come to me, they can go to big offices, they can go talk to these big brokers, but they come to me because I'm always there for them. I'm always there to answer the phone. The simple things. You take care of them step by step. You understand the market. You understand negotiations. Because again, when someone asks me, well, what's your listing fee? And I give them my listing fee or whatever I come up with. And they're like, wow, you don't want to budge off that. I go, if I'm not willing to budge off my commission, how do you think I'm going to do when I'm talking to the buyer's agent and they're fighting for $5,000? Yeah. You think I'm a pit bull now? Yeah. But that's what I'm going to be representing you.
I think too, like during the whole, what I learned a lot during the commission debate, when everyone was talking about that, being in the business over 20 years, you start thinking about that is, people don't hire you necessarily to buy a house or to sell a house. They buy you to close and sell on a house. Mm-hmm. And that is a big difference in the sense of it's one thing to put a sign in the front of your house and to get it, get an offer. Yeah. It's all the other things, your team, so your attorney, your home inspector, your lender, all these types of things. Like you're offering so much more than that in advice and being there and getting the contract signed and getting all these things kind of put into place. Yeah. Like, again, your outcome is never going to be the same no matter who you work with. I have experience working with a variety of realtors every single month. Yeah. And some of the stuff that I see is sobering, okay? Because I'll get a client, a past customer of mine, and they'll use a new realtor who's a friend, and it always scares me. Yeah. And some of them are great, you know, and I've met great people doing that. But sometimes it is very sobering to realize, like, in a lot of the struggle that people have in this market start to really become in more focus, because sometimes it's not so much that the data is difficult. It's being able to have someone like you that can take a stat or something and really put it into context for that specific person and the education piece. Because it used to be someone would call you, Adam, hey, can you list my house? We're ready to go and we're going to go buy a house. And there was a bunch of inventory and you buy a house and you read a contract. That was easy. Yeah. Okay. Now it's not like that.
No, it isn't.
You got to have 4 listing appointments where you talk about pricing strategies and where we're going to move. And what if I can't sell and buy in the same transaction? And then, well, Adam, what are we going to do? There's nothing on the market. And where are we going to go and how are we going to do? I mean, I know from talking to you, you go door to door.
Oh, absolutely. And not afraid to do it.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize that really in all the age of technology, you're going door to door.
If I do an open house, you want to hear something I do for an open house, and not every listing, but again, if I'm doing an open house on a Saturday and it's like a 12 to 2 or 12 to 3, I'm knocking on doors in those houses in the area. You know what? Most brokers don't want to do it, and they won't. But you know what? I have 4 kids to feed, and they're all, you know what I mean? So I'm willing to go that far. And if you offer that to people saying, wow, you'll knock on doors, well, it's tough to do. You know, the hardest thing about knocking on doors is getting out of the car.
Well, it's tough to do it now because now everyone going door to door are people from hail adjusters.
Oh, yeah.
That are going, because I had like 30 people at my door over the last 2 weeks. So, it's going to be a little bit more. I would just wear a shirt that says, you know, I'm a realtor, or I'm not a hail adjuster, and they'll probably talk to you,
One thing you brought up, and I want to touch on this, is that, and what I've seen, I was a broker once. I started in 2006. I remember a broker kind of walked me through the whole process of how the process goes and brought me under his wing. And I see that's the one thing in this industry I think is tough, is because it's really not hard to go get your real estate license.
Yeah.
It's a process. It is. It's a process. But
the barrier to entry is still pretty low.
It is very low.
Yeah.
Because you're going to say, well, one issue I see is that I might lose a listing to the cousin who just got a real estate license, or the mom who does it part-time.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. I understand we all have to make money. But are you going to trust your largest asset to someone who negotiates once a year?
Yeah.
Or are you going to talk to someone who does it once a month, twice a month, 3 months, whatever the case may be? The point is, you need someone who knows how to. When I've gone into showings and the broker knows me because we've done a deal before. Yeah. Do you know how easy that is sometimes when just the communication of it with both the broker and I know the lender, we've done a deal. I'll know the appraiser who walks in. I just got a house in Lockport under contract, and the appraiser and I are talking for a half hour. And again, do brokers show up to the appraiser? One of the appraisers there. Host is on a lockbox, you know what I mean?
On that real quick, it's important because what you just said is that you show up for the appraisal. The first question I always ask when we have an appraisal come in low, did you meet the appraiser at the house? Yep. I will tell you 95% of the time it's a no. And some people don't understand, well, why do I need to go there? They're looking at comps or do whatever. I can't give you every reason why, but I can tell you what, when the appraiser and the realtor show up together and have a 5-10 minute conversation, you're going to walk out of there feeling like, I'm good.
Yes.
Or you're going to be like, I don't know, like this guy's a little crazy. I better call the lender and see like, where'd you find this guy?
Yeah,
you know, like, but like that conversation will it's again, we talk about why you pay someone what you do. It's all those little things. But if you have a realtor who just sticks a sign in the door, gets the contract, and doesn't do those little things and doesn't have a good team around them, your outcome is going to be very different than if you have one that does.
Same thing with my attorney. My attorney's been in the business. He does a good, big volume.
Yeah.
And when he's done deals with the other side, the other counsel on the other side, you know how much easier that is? Just the communication aspect is there. So again, nothing to discredit anybody who's just starting to join the industry, but I think it's important for it to be out there like, hey, it has to be disclosed. I do this and real estate.
Well, you know what, though? I think the best newer agents mentor under a veteran agent.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And learn the business the right way, and they end up having a great career because of it. Yeah. I always said, like, if I was going to become a realtor, I would want to work under
exactly.
And, kind of like what my team does with Tom and others who have worked underneath me, because you take all the things that you learn and you copy some stuff, you recreate others, but you learn the business the right way versus just chat GPT in it. When you get an offer in and saying, what do I do? Like your outcome is going to be a little, but that's what some people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, asking the right questions is important. I think that even in, the Wolf of Wall Street, it's like, sell me the pen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have to ask the questions. What are you looking to do? What is your goal?
Yeah.
And I think that if we just say, I'm the best broker out there, no, that's not what people want to hear.
Yeah.
They want to hear, how can you solve my problems?
Yeah.
Whether it's upsizing, downsizing, you leasing, whatever the case may be, it's just find out what their goal is.
I always say too, and I'm curious on this, is I think the outcome is a known what we want. They want to sell the house. Okay. I feel like the key right now is how you made them feel during that process. You made them feel seen, heard, understood, they trusted you, and you gave them an experience and you handled every objection along the way. That experience is what they're going to refer when they refer someone else. And I think all the technology and all the things have taken the feelings out of it.
Yes, it has.
Because there's no communication. You're going door to door. We still pick up the phone and call all of our clients. We don't use text and email, because you want to have that experience tied to it. And I feel like that's what a lot of people have gone away from. And I think that's the piece that's missing. Even as much as AI is a part of our process, people are still craving human interaction.
Of course they are.
And, have you ever called somewhere and gotten a bot on the phone?
How annoyed are you with those?
I mean,
just give me some 000.
You want to jump out the window. And so that's why I think to try to guess what the consumer is going to want on some platform, because you get, all these eyeballs on there and they're going to go through a purchase transaction a specific way today because that's what they're doing. That can change in a moment.
Of course.
And it will. And I feel like the one thing that we'll always come back to is the experience that you can provide a consumer is something that will always be rewarded.
Correct.
And that can include technology and can be aided by technology to provide a better experience, but it should never replace that consumer interaction. And that's always something I'm very passionate about. I'm involved in a lot of tech stuff at Raid, and we're working on all these things. And as much tech that we're doing with AI, we're using it to increase consumer and human interaction, not remove it.
Of course.
Okay. And make sure that the consumer feels like they have that connection versus some bot that doesn't know every scenario or what can do, or avatar people keep talking about now. I
mean, Eric, I've had clients who've decided to use whoever lender they decided to use, and that person isn't answering the phone after 5 o'clock. Do you know how frustrating? I mean, you know how frustrating it is when we had this conversation. But during that whole process, our job doesn't end at.
If anything, my communication picks up. After hours, because now everyone's off of work. Their kids are in bed or their kids are at practice, and they're done with work, so that's the time that they can dedicate. Or hey, Eric, can we call you at 8 o'clock? We want to put our kids down at 7. Get situated. We'll call you at 8. That's when my time, really picks up. Evenings and weekends, that's when I'm busiest. We always say if our busiest time to get a hold of customers is Saturday mornings. As crazy as it sounds.
No, I get it.
10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, I can get a hold of pretty much 95% of the people I need to. And Tom and I will have these times we'll be reaching out to pre-approvals, whatever. We'll get people on the phone and we'll have, or people that we can't get a hold of during the week. Saturday mornings are a key time. Before they have games, before they have, we can get a lot of people. So to your point, that's when we got to work. Yeah. And there's just not a lot of people that are willing to be able to do that.
But I mean, you're someone on your team is always answer the phone. And again, it's even the front door here, your cell phone number's on it. So I know. I'm sure you've gotten calls from the front door, but just being there for them. And I think that's why we're going to be different than the other people. Because again, there's multiple brokers out there and whatever, but again, what makes you different? What makes you different from the other person?
So we said again on March 16th, April will kind of start a busy time. We're going to have a lot of people, kids getting out of school, trying to match up those times. So, if you're meeting with a buyer right now, what does that consultation look like, getting prepared? the pre-approval's done, what is, and let's say they're buying in the suburbs, so because city's a different animal.
Yeah.
What is that like? How are you preparing a buyer up front for what they're about to experience? Because it's going to be, $300,000 to $400,000 purchase price. It's going to be, you're walking into craziness. Like, how are you preparing the buyers up front?
It's a good question, because I think that I'm going to go back to communication. It's a big thing. I've heard buyers who didn't work with me that, I saw 50 homes, 60 homes. I'm like, are you really communicating with your buyer's agents?
Yeah.
And
your lender.
Let's just have a conversation. Let's say what your wish list is and what are you looking for.
Yeah.
And then let's refine those houses just to make sure they fit your narrative instead of just going out to see houses. I think you're wasting people's time. You do a pre-approval per address, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, again, I think just if there's that communication breakdown where they don't, you're showing them houses that don't fit what they're looking for, what justice are you doing here?
Yeah, so I love this topic. So what I've been telling everyone, and the analogy is we used to do 20% of the process up front, go under contract, and then we do 80% of the process after they go under contract.
Yeah.
Now it's a complete opposite.
I agree.
We do 80% up front, okay?
Yeah.
They go under contract, and we do the other 20%.
Okay.
And, there's an old NAR stat that's been true for 15 years. And the average buyer, okay, takes a realtor per NAR around 26 to 27 hours of their time. The average listing takes a listing agent around 6 to 8 hours of their time. Who do you think, why do you think most successful realtors are listing agents? Because of the hours that it's spent.
Yes.
And my job is to take that 26 hours and bring it down to like 15.
That's awesome.
And if you can, and now one would say, well, God, you're taking away time from a buyer. That's their time. No, because there is such a thing in this market that's called buyer fatigue.
Yes, it is.
And there's a lot of buyers who experience buyer fatigue. Do you know that around 60 to 70% of people that got pre-approved during COVID never purchased a home?
Really?
And the main reason why is buyer fatigue. Think about it.
Yeah.
They put 3 or 4 offers in.
Yes.
The offer didn't get accepted.
Correct.
And they're like, you know what, I'm going to rent.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they're 35, 36, 37. So if you see 50 homes, you're going to experience buyer fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay. If you do your 80% up front, okay, you do a buyer consultation, you prepare yourself for where you need to offer and that you need to go over list price, and you educate the buyer. And then you're being able to place an offer and you win that offer because you're 80% done and all your competition is 20% done. Yeah. Now the time that you spent is less.
Yes.
But the buyer experience
is a lot.
It's 100 times better.
Yeah.
And all their friends that tried to purchase and couldn't, they're like, well, what did you do?
Correct.
Well, I worked with Adam. He
Correct.
referred me to a lender. He referred me. We prepared up front. We did all this stuff. So to me, I think that's the key in this market that gets lost
100%.
in a lot of the other noise, with everything else. But I'm curious if you agree with that.
1,000%. Because again, if we know what you're looking for, again, taking buyers out sometimes is a little bit,
Because the 50 homes that you went and looked at, they may only qualify for 20 of them.
But it doesn't. It's just wasting your time. And time is money.
People think we're crazy when we run payments on every single property. But honestly, do you know the time that is wasted when you put in an offer, you do the home inspection, and then all of a sudden the client is like, well, Adam, this is way higher than I wanted to pay monthly. Like, that's a horrible
They've wasted money on inspection and all these things already, and you haven't done the right education on things.
Yeah.
And then what justice are you doing them, the lender?
Now the listing agent has to relist the property.
And that's all questions. Why is the house get relisted, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, that's when people say they show 20 homes, it's just, I don't get it a lot of that, because again, that consultation before we even start wanting to sell our house or even just going to buy, those questions are answered, and we're all on the same page of what we're looking to do.
Because remember during COVID, we were more order takers, where you would meet a buyer at the house for the first time.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the market was.
Yeah.
You'd meet the buyer at the house, you'd place the offer, and you were just running around like crazy. You were order taker.
Yeah.
And now I think when we get back to what makes you different and why you're more valuable today as a professional realtor or lender like myself is we're not order takers anymore.
Correct.
We are not a commodity. You know, we are going to meet with a buyer. We're going to do a consultation. We're going to go through monthly payments. We're going to go through cash to close. You're going to meet with a buyer. You're going to go through the market and the strategy and what needs to do. That is what separates, you know, professionals in our industry from people that are, you know, just, you know, out there to, you know, close 3-4 deals and, you know, work their day job.
Yeah.
There's nothing more annoying to me when I meet, and I know right away when I leave a message for a realtor and I get a call at 5:30.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's fine. And you know, I understand people want to do that and they want to get in, but like, to your point, you know, the other agents who are working full time have had all day to strategize, get that offer in, get their client to see the property, and the offer's already in. And we're already at a disadvantage when we don't have that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, even when you're trying to sell a house, people ask, I've asked reverse prospecting. You go on the MLS, you have a listing, you can kind of see which broker or which buyers associated with which brokers are interested in those homes. And that's just, you know, I had one listing that just was sitting, and I just ended up calling reverse prospecting and calling all these brokers. You know, not all brokers even know that's even out there.
Yeah.
So again, I'm calling people who may be interested and trying to get those buyers agents to bring the buyer out. That's just thinking outside the box sometimes. Use the technology that we do have to get out there and advocate for the seller, because, you know, you put a sign on the ground, it doesn't mean it's going to sell right away.
Yeah.
You really have to navigate this in a professional manner to be able to make sure it's a smooth closing.
Where do you see opportunity right now? Do you see more first-time home buyers, downsizers, move-up buyers, investors? Where are you seeing the most activity right now?
Boomers.
Yeah. Okay.
I sold a house in Tinley Park, and sellers like, listen, there's all this junk in there. He's like, I want you to take care of everything. I go, all right. This is a good story. It was guys in his 80s, just had another house in wherever, Lake Forest. He's like, you know what? There's all this stuff here. I need to get rid of it. I had a company come in and do a what do you call it? Estate sale.
Estate sale, yeah.
Then whatever's left, we cleared out with dumpsters.
Yeah.
And had a cleaning crew come in, had a painting crew come in, painted the house, because the seller, again, he wanted to get top dollar. But didn't want to go through all the hoops and to get it sold. So I don't want to say I was the property manager, but I was there to make sure the contractors, the paint was all done. I picked out the paint colors and it was just done very well, and it sold very seamlessly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my parents are in they're boomers, they're mid 70s.
Yeah.
So again, do they need these big houses that they as kids grew up in?
But that's the thing, is most boomers are aging in place right now.
Yeah.
And they're not moving because they have a ton of equity.
Yep.
And quite honestly, a lot of these places where they would move are very expensive. And unfortunately, what happens is there's a life event that happens that forces a downsize.
Correct.
And those are very stressful situations under duress when you're selling in those cases and downsizing, because maybe one partner had a stroke or fell or can't go upstairs anymore. And now you're trying to make those sales happen.
Yeah.
And that can be very stressful. So getting it done before that is, and as anybody who has parents knows, that's always a stressful part.
Absolutely.
Or any child to be worried about their sibling. How about, do you see investors dabbling? I mean, it's tough in Illinois because investors are looking for deals. Yeah. And there's not, not.
I'm seeing more houses that were being leased. They're trying to get out of them now. Yeah. And it's because, again, you're going to maximize your profits now more than anything else. Yeah. So that's why I have seen
take
some
that money, put it somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah. Put it in something. One village town in the southern part of Chicago, I've sold a couple houses there, but I'm not seeing a lot of activity. It's because the village is so difficult to deal with. Yeah. Because they have their own inspection on top of the home inspection. Yeah. And the hoops that you have to jump through.
No, that's tough. We've dealt with this a lot, where closings are delayed for months over this. Like it's absolutely crazy.
And it makes it impossible to even want to make some kind of transaction. So I see that when there's a town that doesn't have so many restrictions, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah. But for investors, I've always told people, you're going to find a good school district, get a ranch, ranch where some of these baby boomers are wanting to downsize themselves. Yeah. Make sure there's a fence because everyone's going to have a dog, and get a ranch.
It's a great point.
I think that, and that's the conversations I've had with some of my investors, and they're like, well, it's a very good aspect, but you got to remember, so those boomers are downsizing, right?
Yeah.
They've got cash.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, if that house fits the narrative of what they're looking for as buyers, one, it's going to be cash, and two, they're going to pay up for it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I've shifted my, advice going forward.
No,
So
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's exactly the angle that there's a lot of pent up seller demand in that area as well. And that's a lot of the inventory that traditionally first time home buyers would be purchasing is when people are downsizing. And we just haven't seen a lot of that because of market dynamics, low rates. I mean, quite honestly, a lot of their homes are paid for free and clear. A lot of their kids don't want mom and dad to sell the house that they grew up in. There's a lot of emotions tied to that.
Yeah.
But again, then the life event happens, and then it's more of a necessity than it is a choice.
And it's always a tough question to ask because, again, I brought up that there's so much emotion in people's homes. They've had Christmases, their Thanksgivings, whatever the case may be. But our job is to take the emotion out of it.
No, I mean, that's exactly it. You have to take emotions out of it. You have to be able to make decisions on the best interest of the family and put them in a position to be able to help. The thing that I always tell people in those situations and reverse mortgages or, maybe it's a buy before you sell program, maybe that costs a little bit more upfront, is quality of life.
Yep.
I think there is a cost you have to pay either emotionally or financially for quality of life sometimes. And there's not perfect scenarios, but if you can put you and your family in a better position long-term and a better quality of life for mom and dad, and you can get them to there without experiencing, which I'm sure we've both been involved in, where someone waits too long and then again, the life event happens and it's the last thing you want to be dealing with after a life event is a downsize and a sale,
correct,
estate sales, all this stuff. Like it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have, siblings or kids that are out of state and dealing with that, and you got to have a bunch of opinions, coming in, and it can be a lot for everybody.
Of course.
So if you can handle that beforehand, and have a longer runway to be able to do that and make good decisions, you're going to maximize, like you did for your clients, the price that you can get.
Yeah.
Versus this duress sale where you're like, we're just going to sell it to an investor to, purchase it as
and leave
is
money on the table.
Yeah, leave money on the table. Yeah. So I think that is something that is important. So before we end, would love to get your take, kind of like what you expect, in the next year or two in the market. It could be on the market, it could be brokerages, it could be, consumers, economy. Like, where do you kind of see the next couple of years and how do you see it playing out?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think about this on a regular basis. Obviously. As the phone starts to ring more, rates are lower, they are under 6, let's call it that. That has been I think the one thing that has brought people off the sidelines to where now the conversations, what we said before, are a little more palatable. So I do believe that there will be slowly more inventory coming on the market. It's April, or it's March right now.
Yeah.
April, everyone says, well, people don't sell houses in the winter, which is not true. So I think the people who, they want to hit the spring market, there's going to be more houses on the market this year than there were last year at this time. And I think, again, now the rates are a little bit more at a point where people believe they're palatable. You're going to have a little bit more activity.
Does this year feel different than last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that I had more arguments over rates and that the uncertainty of where we would go. And I think that's where the lack of inventory creates that uncertainty for sellers and seller buyer, whatever. 6, 7.
There you go. That'll be a trending moment.
There we go. Again, I see top brokers in the city are saying like a 20% increase in sales.
Yeah.
It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, when you see more conversations that are happening and you're not getting so much pushback. Like, wow, this might actually, be good. I think it's a good time to be walking into our industry.
And I don't know if you feel like this, but I think rates are a big piece of it.
Yeah, but it's not everything.
I was going to say, I'm not going to ignore the obvious. I feel like there's a lot of other dynamics at play. Pent-up seller demand, pent-up buyer demand. Demographics play a huge role in it. Average first-time home buyer in age 40, like how much longer can you put it off? Baby boomers not downsizing during COVID and putting it off, and now they have all this extra equity. Like, I feel like it's kind of like almost everything at once.
Yes.
Kind of all kind of converging.
Yes.
And interest rates, if anything, will just pull that forward a little bit.
That's all.
Kind of like how I don't think COVID created more sales. I think it just pulled a lot of sales forward.
Yes.
And then we had the back end of it where it was slower.
Mm-hmm.
But really, if you averaged out all the sales, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
It pulled a lot of the sales that would have happened later forward because it was just the time to do it because rates were so low.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of those people would have transacted anyways. It just would have been at a different time.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion. I kind of remember it was like 2010 or 11, they had a first-time home buyer tax credit.
Okay.
And we were super busy leading up to it. You got like a credit on your taxes for buying a home. And then immediately after that was over, it was straight down. Yeah. But it's like, it wasn't like the market was bad after that. It's just a lot of the people purchased to get the credit.
Yeah.
Then after credit was gone away, like the motivation was gone.
Yeah.
And the people that would have purchased already did, and it would have spread those out over an extended period of time. So I just feel like we're in this market where I think a lot of things are converging to make it more advantageous to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
Anything else that you see, any surprises that you have on your bingo card that maybe you think when you're, maybe could happen that maybe nobody's expecting?
Let's get through this little Iran thing first. I think that there's a lot of noise with that. And I think I saw a meme on social media was like, anyone want to buy a house, but like the rest of the world is getting a bad time right now. I think once that kind of like solidifies and kind of whatever's going to happen, we still have to do our job. But I think once that kind of falls off and tapers off, I think that buyers are going to start. I think it's going to get a little more busier. Yeah. That's what I think. But I think that's what's on TV right now. So
I mean, it's interesting because we don't have too many markets where we would have, if that were to happen and that were to go away, mortgage rates, 4-year lows, all during the spring market. It's kind of a little scary if you think about it because, there's one thing we don't need is more demand.
Correct.
We've never been short demand. We need more inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would love to see whatever we can to do to get more inventory.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke about it in the office all the time. I would have way more sales if I had more inventory.
Correct.
I have no shortage of buyers.
Yeah, I get it.
I have a shortage of inventory for them to buy.
Yeah.
And then, they keep making offers and they're getting, we had an offer this weekend. I think there were 16 offers.
I'm not surprised.
And it's like a $395,000 home, 16 offers. It's like,
But it's cheaper to rent.
Well,
right?
The realtor called me. It was funny. She's like, the client said, what do you think you should offer?
It's cheaper to buy than rent.
But the realtor's like, well, what do you think I should offer? She's like, I don't even know what to say. Like 16 offers. Like, there's going to be a couple people in there that have an offer in there that just makes no sense.
Correct.
But they just want the house.
But that's the job of knowing from a listing agent. If you come up with an offer that is so outlandish and you go under contract with that offer, you've now taken the house off of contract. If it's not going to appraise out, then what?
Well, I always say the highest offer isn't always the best offer.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. Or the lowest rate is not always the best offer.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. It's because, that. But, well, Adam, I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day.
Thank you.
I always enjoy these conversations. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you coming in. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, thank you.